good morning, dear Yogi Ji. We congratulate you on your past birthday. We wish you health and bright inner state and creative longevity.
Spasiba.
You are undoubtedly a seeker of truth, and surely your personal search is not complete. How fruitful and effective is it? What more would you like to achieve?
There is a lot to achieve. Now, this is a stage where we have received our self-realization. And one drop is in the ocean, but one drop is not enough. The ocean has to come in the one drop. So till we spread the message, till many more people get their realization, the drop cannot become the ocean. So one drop getting self-realization is meaningless unless it becomes a collective happening. And that is the only way the world can change.
Thank you. Could you tell from your own sacred experience what is a higher love? How does anyone become an integral part of it? Is it a blessing, or does it take conscious action to become one?
Till a point you can say that you have to be aware of yourself. There has to be self-awareness so that you can correct your wayward thoughts, negative thinking, reacting to others. So for that, there has to be an awareness. Otherwise you will not know what you are saying. You will not know how negative you are, joining negative people. So you have to have awareness. But then a transition takes place when the Kundalini rises. A transition takes place. That the consciousness of your spirit starts coming in your conscious mind. The spirit has consciousness. Okay? So, but that consciousness is not in our conscious mind. What is in our conscious mind? It is driven by the ego, or it is driven by the superego, but not by the spirit. So, after self-realization, when the Kundalini is able to establish itself at the Sahasrara chakra, then we become conscious of the Kundalini. Or you can say the consciousness of the Kundalini starts permeating through us. So instead of the ego, the superego that was driving us, now the spirit becomes a driving force. So as the spirit is the reflection of the divine, so we start getting divine experiences, we start experiencing divine love. So that divine love is different from the love of the ego, which is possessive, which is limited. This is unlimited and it doesn't stop. Once a flow starts, you are in that state. That is the difference.
Tell us about subtle connection of information, feeling vibration, and faith in Sahaja Yoga.
See, faith can be blind faith also. So, blind faith is of no use. You say I'm a Christian, you say I'm a Muslim, and you have a blind faith, but you don't have any experience. So, unless until the connection is there, it is blind faith. But once the connection is there, then the flow starts. So the experience starts. So then the faith becomes enlightened faith. That is the difference.
How would you rate, if possible, of course, the various periods of Sahaja Yoga development, the 70s and 80s, and 90s and zeros, and the present days?
See, Sahaja Yoga started in 1970. Shri Mataji started giving realization in 1970 onwards. So that was the first bloom, the first flush, and people did not understand because it was something very new. So a lot of people came out of curiosity, they didn't understand and they left. So in the first 5 years, that is 70 to 75, it was only a handful of people. Say, mostly in India, say about Delhi 20 people, Bombay 30 or 40 people, Pune 15 people, and maybe in London she said there were 7 hippies she had to struggle with. But after 75, Sahaja Yoga started spreading not only in India but in all countries slowly. So there was a period from 75 to 1980 where public consciousness started expanding about the Kundalini. People didn't even know earlier what was Kundalini. They thought it was the horoscope, which is in India, which is called Kundalini. Kundali and Kundalini. So there are two different things. So there was a lot of confusion. So slowly, people accepted the idea that there is a germinating force at the base of our spine, which is called the Kundalini. So it took about this period for this to permeate the consciousness of the seekers. Because earlier they only talked about the soul, the Atma, or the spirit. But you cannot, till the light of the Kundalini falls on the spirit doesn't come in your conscious mind or on your conscious, or you can say on your central nervous system. So then 1980 to say 1990 was a phase when people slowly started getting established in Sahaja Yoga. So in that establishment, they were on the foundation stones of Sahaja Yoga. They were at the foundation of Sahaja Yoga and they were laying the foundation stones. Then 90 onwards, the building started rising from the foundation. And in 2000, you can say, the roof of Sahaja Yoga was laid. Then, after 2000 onwards, the new millennium was a time to embellish the mansion of Sahaja Yoga, to decorate it, to enjoy it. So when the house is built, now you are ready to live in it, to enjoy it. So people started having more and more inner experiences, not only miracles, but they started having the joy of Sahaja Yoga. Earlier was the knowledge of Sahaja Yoga. We were trying to grasp, we were trying to understand, we were trying to digest. But once we experienced it on our central nervous system, the chakras became strong and we were able to enjoy the glory of our mother.
We talk about life as a theater of constant struggle between good, and evil. What do you think about modern balance of powers? How can those who seek to know the truth, not lose heart in this confusion world?
You see, the good and the evil struggle has been going on since our creation. In every tradition there has been an epic, like in India you had the epic of Mahabharata, in Greece you had the Iliad, the struggle between good and evil. So in every country there has been a tradition of evolution where we have to overcome the evil and we have to rise above it. So in the present situation it is the same. There are forces of evil and there are forces of good. We had the First World War, the same thing. We had the Second World War, the same thing. But over a period, nations who have developed more awareness have understood that war is not the answer. So the concept of United Nations was established, that you have a platform where you can sort out your differences peacefully. But still there are countries who defied the collective resolutions of United Nations, and they're very defiant. They are aggressing other countries. But the difference today is that these countries are in isolation. The rest of the world is on one side, like the resolution of United Nations. The countries who have passed the resolution are on one side, and these defiant, aggressive countries are isolated all alone by themselves. And if they carry on the aggression, the rest of the world will join together and they will be defeated. So there is maybe temporary gain. They may feel that they have won something, but that will be very temporary. They cannot withstand the collective. Like if there is one stick, you can break it. But if all the sticks are in a bunch, you can't break it. So when the collective world on one side and one or two countries alone on the other side, they will eventually be defeated. So this awareness has come now in the collective, that evil cannot survive. There is no place for evil in a globalized world. A globalized world is driven by collective consciousness. So it has to be the rule of the spirit. And that time is now gone, that one Hitler or one Mussolini could create havoc and turn the world around. Now they cannot.
Many of the 90th generation sincerely believed that vibrational knowledge will change not only their lives but the whole world. Major Sahaja Yogis will enter various international organizations and will be able to positively influence the development of countries and the entire planet. Scientists will begin to explore and implement the methods of Sahaja Yoga. Why this didn't happen? And will it ever happen?
No, of course it has happened. You don't remember the Berlin Wall fell? You don't remember the Soviet Union dissolved? It did happen. But you didn't relate it to Sahaja Yoga. You didn't relate it to vibrations. You didn't see how all the dictators, all the despots who were ruling country, how all of them got exposed, how so many countries got liberated from autocrat despots. Now there's hardly any country left. I mean, even Syria, where you had this Saddam Hussein, even he was removed. You had these terrorist organizations, Al Qaeda, and all these, and their leader was killed. So it has happened everywhere in every country. You had the in these countries, all these dictators were removed. So now hardly any country has, maybe one or two countries are left which still have dictators, but nowhere else. So it is all happening. Only thing is we are not aware of it. And you will see, you saw that when we had this COVID, how countries helped each other. They gave vaccines to poor countries. In India, we gave vaccines to so many countries in Africa who didn't have. So the world has started sharing much more. They did not only give to their own country, they shared it with other countries. So it is happening. The world is changing. The world has changed drastically. This is because of Sahaja Yoga, because of the Sahaja Yogis giving vibrations. They're putting their attention to all the problems of the world. The world has changed. This would not have happened before Sahaja Yoga. Every country was only thinking of their own people, only their own national interests. Nobody was thinking of the underprivileged countries who didn't have the vaccines. So it has happened in a very big way. People are thinking collectively. That's what Sahaja Yoga is, collective consciousness. Earlier on, everybody was only for me and my country. Now they've understood that no country can survive all alone. You cannot be an island anymore. We are all in this together. So don't make that mistake thinking that it has not happened. It has happened in a very big way. But maybe you are not able to see it. That's your problem.
In recent years, the pandemic and the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, let's a little bit change our scenery. This conflict between Russia and Ukraine and pandemic too have been the main themes that have influenced changes in the global situation. Let's look at them separately. In your opinion, is the viral pandemic a creation of human hands, politics, or a real attacks on the subtle level?
You see, according to Sahaja Yoga, all these viruses are nothing but plants and animals that have gone out of evolution. So, so it's not a state where there is no virus. They are all there, but they are in their, you can say, they are sleeping. But as our immunity levels are going down because of adharmic lifestyles, so our chakras are getting weak, especially the Mooladhara chakra. The biggest attack today is on the Mooladhara chakra. And this chakra is the most important chakra because this is the chakra that is supporting all the other chakras. That's why it's called Mooladhara. Adhar means the support. Mool means the root. So this is the support of the entire subtle system of all our chakras. And if this chakra is weak, vulnerable, abused, disrespected, then all these viruses can penetrate us. So the environment is full of viruses. It has always been. It is nothing new. But as human immunity, because of lack of dharma, of lack of maryadas, have destroyed the first chakra, the Mooladhara chakra, so all these viruses can penetrate. You said the pandemic, the example is a pandemic. Now let's take the statistics of the countries which had the most cases and the most deaths in ratio of their population. So in ratio of their population, the highest were in America, and in ratio of the population, the least were in India. Why? Because the Mooladhara of India's is strong. And why? Because the Mooladhara of the American is weak. They have disrespected their Mooladhara, they have the same-sex marriages, they encourage the same-sex marriages, children, they can adopt, the same-sex parents can adopt children. So they have totally broken every single maryada. And so they are completely vulnerable. Earlier, that's where they had the maximum AIDS, and now they had the maximum cases of the pandemic, the COVID, and the maximum number of deaths. So from this gives you a perspective of the relationship between our chakras and the outside environment, be it viruses, be it germs, be it any kind of toxic material. You can say the test is, they all tested at the Mooladhara chakra.
Can you tell us about your meeting with the President of India, Mr. Kovind, in 19?
Yes, 2019. This was, I was invited by the President of India to inaugurate my book Gita Enlightened, which is a revised edition for meeting the present situation and the present change in the world. And he was very pleased to inaugurate the book. He went through it and we discussed many things. And I'm very thankful to Shri Mataji for giving me this opportunity. She herself had directed this book from the very beginning and has written many parts of it also. So this is of course very relevant to today, understanding today's situation globally.
If we will return to previous question about influence of Sahaja Yoga on this world, I think that this meeting was very fruitful.
Yes, very fruitful. He got his realization also.
Really?
Yes. He, when I put the photo of Shri Mataji, I gave him a photo of Shri Mataji, and he put his hands and he felt very cool vibrations. So he's got his realization. He's a very humble man. Very humble man.
Can you shortly remember some leaders of India who got realization during these 50 years of Sahaja Yoga?
Oh, so many. Starting with our Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri. Of course, Sir C.P. Srivastava has written a book which Shri Mataji herself inaugurated. Shri Mataji had given him realization. Then President Sanjeeva Reddy, who had cancer and Shri Mataji cured his cancer. Then he got realization. Then so many ministers in the cabinet, so many governors of India, so many top people in every department, in every aspect of life. In Russia, she was invited at the Kremlin. This was the time of Gorbachev, and she gave realization to all the ministers at the Kremlin, and that is the time that they signed a protocol with Life Eternal Trust and the Ministry of Health of USSR for a joint venture whereby we will teach them about the Sahaja Yoga treatments, and that project carried on under the director Dr. Alien, who was the director of the health, and she gave workshops for 500 doctors, and they got all of them got their realization. That is actually how Sahaja Yoga spread in Russia, through this Ministry of Health. So a lot of work, tremendous amount of work she has done with leaders and with ministers and governors and heads of institutions.
The 100th anniversary of our beloved teacher and mother is coming soon. In spite of the problematic issues we have raised, Sahaja Yoga is developing quite successfully all over the world. What would you like to wish all Sahaja Yogis on the eve of this great date?
You know, Shri Mataji always said that as I have loved you, you should love others. So that's the only message. Love others as she has loved us. That is the legacy, her living legacy in us, and 100th times forgive everyone else on 100th birthday.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you. Jai Shri Mataji.